Rocky.
So on today's episode of FroN'Girls, we actually have Facebook Live going at the same time as Periscope. So now I don't know which one to look at.
Yeah, me neither.
It's going to make it really
Just look in between them.
But then we'll make people dizzy.
Yeah.
Oh well. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
That's not very important. And even though I don't know the outcome, what is important is today's topic. You want to introduce today's topic?
How do you handle uncertainty?
How to handle uncertainty. And today's a particularly important topic, and so in honor of the topic, I brushed my hair down.
Good job.
Yeah.
All right, so Isla. Or anybody. Oh yeah, oh my goodness, I was just sipping.
Yeah.
All right, pretend I didn't sip. Everybody, hold your glasses up with me, and we will have the simultaneous sip after we cheers. 10th sip of the day.
Yep.
All right, who wants to take a stab at how to handle uncertainty about, I don't know, like, can anybody think of an example? Oh, that's a great example.
Well, I was thinking you can identify whether or not it's in or out of your circle of influence, because if you know that you can change something, then that kind of makes things different, whereas if it's not something that you can really do anything about.
Sorry, Facebook Live died. We're sticking with Periscope.
Oh yeah. If you identify that it's in your circle of influence, then and you can try to do something about it, then you can either like ignore that fact and like just not do anything, or you can actually try to take action to change the outcome. But if it's outside of your circle of influence, it's more of handling your like emotions towards that uncertainty.
It's about emotional management. But I want to bring up a new topic that we haven't really... Oh, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah.
I could sense it. It's that 14 years of marriage coming through. All right, go. I did good.
Yeah.
I'm remembering a speech, I think, by President Obama delivered in 2004. What he said is the audacity of hope, which is hope in the uncertain times. Right? Hope when you feel like you can't hope, you still hope. And I would say it's a hope for the best, prepare for the worst. That has always been my strategy.
Hope for the best, prepare for the worst. Actually, Michelle Obama said that same thing.
Michelle Obama.
She said that in addition too. I'm sure, like you and I, we often say the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a new concept, probably new to some Westerners, I would guess, that I wanted to share today, that I discovered in college. And it's this concept that is embodied by the yin-yang. And actually, I'm going to go ahead and share. So this is our living room. We don't have...
It's messy though.
Well, up here, I want to show this though.
Okay, yeah.
So instead of a TV, this is what we've got right here front and center when people walk into our living room. And this is, the girls made this. It's this very how long did that take you?
A long time.
Long time.
Maybe a couple months. But we were working on it.
So in the middle there, you have this yin yang. And the concept of the yin yang, I mean, it means different things to different cultures. So I discovered that later, that it's not as cut and dry. But the understanding that I got. Go ahead.
The correct pronunciation is yin yang.
Yin yang. yin yang. Well, I've been saying yang yang like an American forever, so I'm gonna keep saying yin yang.
Uh-huh.
So the concept behind this is this idea that everything is defined by its opposite.
Mhm.
So, and don't worry, I'm getting to how this applies to how to handle uncertainty. So, you take something like happiness. Actually, Sume, do you want to take a stab at this?
Sure.
Okay, because you're the one who made it, and you're like all into this. So,
What the yin yang symbolizes is that like for example happiness cannot be defined without sadness, and you wouldn't know what happiness is without experiencing sadness. And for like getting to your point of uncertainty, if you realize that sadness is what defines happiness, then sadness isn't always such a bad thing, because without it you wouldn't, then what would happiness be? Because you would just be happy all the time, and without sadness you wouldn't be able to appreciate that.
so this is like kind of like a blow your mind sort of concept, because usually when something quote bad happens,
Yeah.
people get all sad and they're like, oh no, the bad thing happened, and now I'm supposed to feel miserable,
Yeah.
right? And it's actually just logically, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, because how you interpret feelings of happiness are really defined by your experience of struggle, right? It's like, it's like if you've ever felt like you were drowning or choking on something and couldn't breathe, and then all of a sudden you come out and you can just, swallow that air, right? You're so excited and happy and relieved to feel your lungs just fill with air.
Mm-hmm.
But like, why can't we just wake up in the morning and just do that and be like, ooh, yay, I can breathe! Like, it just, but we just, you can't, like, why not? Like, I actually kind of faked it right there. It kind of like felt like really exciting. Like, you take a moment, let's do that. Just take a deep breath and just like act like you've been choking. Ready? Go. Woo! Feels good. Sometimes there can be good.
But
It would be good to read out the question.
Okay. All right. The commenter said sometimes there can be a good outcome in the long run, but a bad outcome in the short run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
Well, do you want to share that Chinese saying about like?
祸兮福所倚，
Yeah,
福兮
yeah,
祸
yeah.
所伏。
Yeah, I don't say that as good as you.
So the misfortune leads to fortune, and fortune leads to misfortune.
Misfortune leads to fortune, and fortune leads to misfortune.
tongue twister.
Yeah, that's hard in English as well.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, well, I don't know. That's certainly the story of my life. And I would imagine a lot of other people. When a lot of good things happen, my ego gets really big, like as big as my fro, on days when I don't brush it down. And then it just leads me to make all kinds of mistakes. And I just screw up real bad.
Because like when someone like gets into a car crash, then they're more likely to be like super careful when they're driving for like the next
Right. Oh, that's a
1,
perfect
2
example.
months, like for
Years.
a while.
Sometimes.
Yeah, years, sometimes years. But then when it's less likely for them to actually get into a car crash, they're kind of like, oh, hasn't happened in a really long time. I can start like taking a little more risk, and
because you start to be careless.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Same thing happened in the mortgage market with the housing bubble. It was like for like a long time, housing wasn't a big problem, and so banks just like loosened up their credit standards, and people started taking out loans that they couldn't pay back, and then because people were not fearful and got careless,
yeah,
then it basically caused the housing bubble and the financial crisis. And then after that, you can check this that like so I look at this data for a living, but like it was absolutely pristine underwriting standard for the past decade, where it was like just like there was no nefarious activity going. So it's you go through these cycles of what, how do you say it again? The misfortune leads to fortune.
Fortune leads to misfortune.
So
Well, I would add on to it. There's a huge non-bank mortgage sector now, which we don't really know the quality of the mortgages.
well, of course, there's all kinds of problems that pop up elsewhere,
Right.
Yeah.
but not in areas that we've experienced recently.
Mhm.
That's the key. We just can't
Isla,
make the
what's
exact
your-
same mistake.
Isla, what do you
Right.
think?
Well, I think
About the mortgage market. What are your
No,
thoughts on the
no,
mortgage
thanks
market?
about misfortune leads to fortune, fortune leads to misfortune.
I think with that it doesn't really belong to like everything
Mm-hmm.
because you can like it's not really just about fortune too.
That's true. That's true. It's the way I translated it. I kind of used the same word repetitively.
I thought it was good. It's almost poetic.
Yeah,
I
But
like it.
but it's the Isla's point is it's not just about fortune, right? You know, you can be
Right. Well, you could
it's
say
not related
luck.
to-
You could say
health.
It also doesn't like it might not apply to everything.
Mm-hmm.
no. It certainly doesn't apply to everything.
Relationships.
Well,
I
I
think
would say it
I think-
applies in human systems. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
apply to the weather,
Right.
right? So, like, the weather is
Mhm.
pretty random,
Mm-hmm.
although steadily getting worse because of human intervention.
Right.
But it's like random. You don't see like necessarily like a clearly defined cycle. I mean, the cycle is defined by human psychology,
Mm-hmm.
and the actual circumstance changes so much as our perception of whether or not it's good or bad changes.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Right? And that's the key point, is that we actually have, as human beings, we have a great deal of latitude in interpreting a situation as being good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give an example that I don't necessarily recommend to other parents, but Isla, is it okay if I share the story about India and the Barbies? Okay, all right. So this was like a pivotal moment in Isla's perception of wealth, material wealth, when she was like 5, I want to say. She's really young.
Yeah, she's 5 or something.
And she had all these Barbies. And she was really into Barbies. Which I don't understand because I'm a man.
I think that like girls go through this Barbie phase, but
Right.
I never really liked Barbies, but
most.
Most girls go through it.
Most girls.
Obviously.
So she had all these Barbies, okay? And her birthday's coming up. And she's really worried about the outcome of this birthday. Kind of like some people might be worried about an outcome today. I don't know. And I was like, well, what are you worried about? She's like, well, I don't know if I'm going to get enough Barbies. I was like, well, how many Barbies you got? And she's like, I only got like 19 Barbies. And I was like, well, okay, I need to show you a video. And I sat her down in front of YouTube and I showed her a 5-minute video of this man living in India. He must have had 4 teeth, and his entire his job was as a bicycle taxi for poor people. So like this was the cheap version of getting around, and he didn't have any shoes. He would hop on that bicycle and help really poor people in Mumbai, India get to work. And at the end of that day, I think it was like NBC was like doing an interview of him or something. He goes back home and his home was literally like this. It was just like a box, basically. It was like a glorified box. And his wife was there, and I think she only had 3 teeth. And he introduces his wife, and I'll never forget this. I feel like this is like the way that I want to have this level of happiness with my spouse every day. I'll just be like, and this is my beautiful wife. And she sits there and she's just like, yee! And she's got 3 little teeth sticking out. And then he's like, these are my beautiful children in the corner. And there's these 3 people. They're just like in rags in the corner. But the thing about it that was so shocking to me and I thought was so important and why I want Isla to see it is that they were all so happy. This guy was happy. He loved his family and there was nothing like he wasn't hiding anything. He wasn't ashamed about anything, you know, and you could put him in any other situation in history and only because of my life experience do I look at his situation and go, how can you possibly be happy? You don't have things that I have. But like you put him in any other place in the past like 2 million years, well, like basically people didn't have anything for the past 2 million years, yet they still found a reason to be happy. Or decided not to be. So I showed Isla this video, and I said, so Isla, you know, these people, they don't have anything. They don't have any Barbies, but, you know, they're happy and they're not, like, really worried about not getting, you know, more. And she was like, okay, Dad. And then she goes upstairs. She started marching up the stairs, and then she turns around and marches right down the stairs going, oh, I forgot my bag. And then she goes into the kitchen, grabs a bag, and then goes up to her room.
Sume?
No, this is you. And then you put all your Barbies in this bag, and then you handed me the bag, and you said, Daddy, give this to the poor kids in India. And I think we got it to the Goodwill, but it was a change in the perception that you had about the uncertainty, where you had a paradigm shift in how you saw what was going to make you happy and what you wanted. And I think that's the key message. I know this was long. I'll shut up for a while. But the point is that human beings have a huge influence on how they perceive the goodness or the badness of the world around them. And because of that, the influence that uncertainty should have on how we feel is oftentimes just blown way out of proportion.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Isla?
I agree.
Oh, that was really long. Sorry.
It was good, though.
It was a good talk.
Well, I was all
Good
excited
talk,
about
good talk.
sharing it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Isla, take over. That was too long. Do you want to tell us about a time that you felt like a lot of uncertainty and it was making you nervous?
Like every
Anybody.
single test.
Or anybody.
Every single test at school.
Yeah, every
Oh, yeah?
single test at school. I feel like so worried about my score.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know, that's because if it's not good enough, you're a bad person. Just kidding. Right now. Right? Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right now.
A lot of uncertainty.
Lots of uncertainty.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess you just have to think about just what you just mentioned. That even like a guy with 4 teeth and who lives in a glorified box can be so happy. And if the outcome comes to something that you don't really like, that you can be happy too.
Also, another strategy is to keep yourself busy when you are focused on doing.
Oh yeah,
Things,
don't let it.
Then you don't worry about the things.
Because one thing is that if it's outside of your circle of influence and you can't really do anything about it, then you can just then you shouldn't like let it consume your mind because like for example the election, you can't really do anything at this point, and you just like you can like worry about it until the results come out. Or you could like try to do something else, you know, try to get your mind off it. And while if it's inside your circle of influence, then you might want to kind of think about it more about what you can do. But since with this election, no one can really do anything at this point except like vote and some.
people
You
who are
can't-
counting the votes.
Yeah, the
You
people.
can't really do.
updating
You can't
Can't
really
really do
do
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So might as well not like have it consume your mind, and you can't really think about anything else.
So there's a another. I'll try to make this a shorter story.
Yeah.
I had some uncertainty about a promotion many years ago when I worked at Ernst & Young to become a manager, and I really wanted this promotion, and I thought this this is extremely important, and a lot of what drove my perception around that was that I wanted to get this promotion before other people that were my age got it, because that I don't know why. I mean, and this is the amazing thing was like I was worried about it. I got what I wanted, and then like not too long after, I actually left the job and went somewhere else. And as soon as I left, and I didn't have the same people around me, my peer group of who I compared myself to changed, and all of a sudden I didn't really care if those people got a promotion.
Right.
And the point was that I created this rather arbitrary reference group for deciding whether or not I should be happy with, where my hierarchy was.
Right. Yeah.
But it was just a figment of my own imagination, right? If I can change jobs and all of a sudden I don't care where these people are at in terms of deciding if I have enough or I am high enough in some hierarchy, then the hierarchy is something I just made up in my head.
Right.
And so when you look at this election as an example, and we're trying to decide, well, should I be happy or not? Well, like just look at all the other places that one could be in history. Like you could be in China right before Genghis Khan came right in,
Right.
or you could be in Europe like during the Black Plague, or like there's just, or really like almost like countless areas of history that one could be. And by comparison, you look at the uncertainty that we're facing today and go, well, like, what are you all bent out of shape about?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of silly. And, but that's the reference group. It's like, it's a lot easier for me to change jobs, change my reference group, and realize that I had created this silly, like, strata for deciding if I should be happy or not with an outcome.
Right. Yeah.
But you can't put yourself in another country or put yourself in another point in time in history and then go, oh wow, yeah, there was uncertainty all the time. You can't really pick a time in history where we didn't have a lot of uncertainty and there wasn't something to be worried about. So if that's the case, then why do we need to be all like worried now?
Yeah,
One thing is I would like to add is, as Taoism, which is this Indian philosophy, right? It tended to help you feel good and happy no matter what your circumstances is. But it doesn't, the other side of the coin is that we still need, if you are an activist, if you have a cause you truly believe in, and this election, the result doesn't really help with your cause, just keep on doing what you're doing to make a difference, right? It doesn't mean you don't need to be activist anymore. Just be happy with.
That's right. This
with
is the
whatever.
Taoist Confucius balance.
Yeah.
Right? And China went through these periods, right, where they were more Confucius during tough times. More Taoist during tough times, and then more Confucius during good times.
Great times.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. Well, this gets back to a discussion that the girls and Benjamin and I had about goals. So if you set a goal of we're going to get, our candidate elected, like this is not actually a very good goal.
Yeah.
Why is it not a good goal?
Because you have you can make an impact, but it's not something that you can make big enough of an impact that it's worth setting so much mental energy, like emotional dependency on it, because at the end of the day, while your vote does count, it won't as our previous discussion, it might shift the vote. It could,
especially
but
in Pennsylvania, it could.
But like that's not a very good chance of that happening. And while yes, you can like we were knocking on doors and last year because like people probably freaked
Last
out
election.
this time,
Circle of influence.
yeah.
Goals need to be focused on a circle of influence. It needs to be something that you control. And so if you put so much focus on something that you can't control the outcome of, and like you, I totally agree with what you said, Dr. McPhail. If you're passionate about something, then more power to you. But whatever you are passionate about needs to be something that you control the outcome of. Otherwise, you are just subjecting your emotions to the winds of uncertainty, and that's not a good place to be.
And then if you like don't achieve that goal, then you can like become really upset, and you can run into some depression.
Yeah, upset and upset for reasons that are like not logical. If you've watched this video of the guy in India living in a box with 4 teeth.
Right, yeah.
If you're upset in America because of the outcome of this election, like it just logically does not compute for me.
Right.
That can exist, that emotion can exist, and yet people that have almost nothing
And 4 teeth.
can find happiness.
Yeah.
In a world of uncertainty. You want to talk about uncertainty? Living in a box in India. That's uncertainty.
It goes back to the point you made earlier that the group, the environment we're in, that can make a lot of people feel very anxious and feel very angry if the result goes to the opposite direction they were hoping for, right? So how do we get out of our environment? Like you changed the job, so you realized your
Well,
promotion.
you changed countries.
Yeah.
That's even better.
You learned that the promotion you thought was so important was not that important, right?
Right.
But a lot of times we don't have the luxury to just suddenly change your environment. And what do you do in that case?
Then you can try to focus more on what you can control, which is your perception of the environment. And so
I think it gets to our talk that we did about why it's important not to forget what it's like to be a kid. It's the same idea, right? You're trying to get out of your normal way of thinking.
Yeah, also like
I guess then doing new things could help.
Yeah. Doing new things, talking to new people.
And also, do you think it's so important actually to understand the other side of the viewpoints?
Yeah, I was also thinking maybe just let yourself think about, well, how bad is it really? Because
talk to somebody who's on the other side. Really understand what they think, why they think that was the best choice for the country.
Because if you have so much, because if you think about like, oh, I believe in this so much, and like, oh my God, this is so horrible, then like just try to let yourself think like, how bad is it? Like what's the how is this really affecting me? Is it really bad, or is it just me thinking that it's bad, and that's just affecting me, but other people around me might be feeling something different, because a lot of things that we think are like really good or bad are actually just something that you think is good and bad, but it's not actually what is actually going on.
So I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
So if one is feeling a huge amount of anxiety or anger, what do you think about the positive? Yeah, certainly important to think about the positives in life. I mean, be positive.
Celebrate the
It's like
positives.
my Auntie Cam. She says, my approach to life is the same as my blood type. Be positive. I heard that and I was like, oh, that's really cool. But I think to kind of build on that, though, I think that I can't think of a single time in my life when I had a lot of anxiety or a lot of anger or a tremendous amount of sadness, and that in hindsight, that was the right emotion. Especially when it comes to anger.
Yeah.
So, like, my guess.
Being sad.
Sadness.
Sometimes
okay,
is-
sadness that I get.
Is
I take
crucial
that back.
to
Sadness,
to
I get that. But
choose
anger.
a way to be happy.
Anger to me is like the only reason why anger exists is because of a fight or flight response from like 2 million years of evolution, where we needed some way of our mind like instantly going into rage mode so that we could fight off things and not die. And like that isn't relevant today. Like there isn't like this feeling
it
of
used to be useful, but now like anger, like you shouldn't. It's like you don't need to be angry in order to live your life.
right. I well, have you ever gotten angry and then in hindsight been like, I'm really glad I got angry?
Nope.
I can't think of one.
Yeah.
You think that at least once. So if one is really angry about, like, so last night I shared on Facebook, I just asked people, I said, well, if you didn't think that the election should be close, then why do you think it was close? And I didn't share my views on it because, well, I was nervous about sharing my views on it. But I think the main point that I'll make, which I don't think is terribly controversial, is if nearly half the electorate was split both sides, you can't just dismiss it away as being the result of one side being stupid or backward or otherwise just wrong completely and outright. And
Because it's like,
yeah, go ahead.
if you were in their position with their background, with with all of their experiences, then you probably would have done the same thing. Because there are a lot of cases where you kind of look at what somebody did, and then you're just like, why on earth would you do that? But if you fully understood what like their life experiences, their background, and like how they came to have their views, you would probably understand completely why they did what they did. Because and I think that's like one of the things that I try to do is if someone does something that I don't understand, I just kind of know that there are so many things that you don't know about other people, and so if you're confused about why they did something, it's probably because you just don't understand all the things that are in their background. And so I think that's something helpful.
You know who else said that?
You?
Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, okay.
Just if you've ever heard me say anything smart, it's probably because I heard it from somebody a lot smarter than me, and I'm just saying it. Yeah. So and if we went through that thought process of going, okay, well, then maybe there's something important there that I'm missing, and then if you become vulnerable and you listen to it, then what happens to a lot of that anger and anxiety about the uncertainty? All of a sudden it starts to go down a little bit because you go, oh, and you reach a point of at least some level of understanding. And I think that's what moves the country forward, if we can start to do that. I'd really like to see that. But
yeah. Because I think there's so much division between like political views.
it feels like a football game.
Yeah.
And by football, I mean European football, which I don't know if you know anything about American football. It's soccer, but
Right.
people completely lose their minds before, during, and after European football games. A lot of shirtless men with their team names painted across their chests as they're running through the streets. Anyway, well,
Yeah, I think we covered it all.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, Ina?
No, not really.
all right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess we'll conclude this episode of
FroN'Girls.
All right. Everybody, take care. Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Crack it.